Hi, and welcome to Racehouse with your host, me, Joe Lee.
And me, Darren Reeves.
Lots to talk about today. It's the Dutch Grand Prix. It's just happened. What a crazy, crazy race. That's why I'm wearing these crazy glasses. That's why Darren's got the orange shirt at the back, the poncho. There are a lot of ponchos out there. It was pouring down. Did you see it?
Well, mate, I've got to say it's one of my most enjoyable races this season, and we've had 4 weeks to look forward to it. Max, it's home Grand Prix, orange everywhere. Mate, it's definitely lived up to expectation, that's for sure.
It was great. I mean, I think the whole weekend has just been unbelievable. I mean, as I said, we spoke about the weather in a previous episode and how that would impact. I mean, I love the weather. I mean, the weather actually on a whole has been pretty rubbish for most F1 races this season, I think. But I love that because it does add this element of excitement, of unpredictability. You don't know what's going to happen. And, the Dutchies wanted to party. It's hard to when it is absolutely chucking it down. And for a driver in the teams, they've got to constantly think, what tyres are we going to put in? They may go with softs, and then suddenly it's raining. Get in, box, get those wets on, get the intermediates on. I mean, it was just it was full on action the whole way through. I mean, well, even with free practice as well. I mean, we saw some crazy shunts as well. I mean, what were your takes from practice?
Well, first of all, I think the story of the weekend before the race was Liam Lawson coming in for the unlucky Daniel Ricciardo to come back for a couple of races in Alpha Tauri to then avoid crashing into Piastri, who stole his race seat from McLaren last year. I suppose how he would look at it. Fellow Aussie, of course, so I'm sure it's a double-edged thing. But yeah, he tried to avoid it, had to crash into the barrier and broke his right hand. And today he's in Barcelona in the hospital having an operation. So, it's a really difficult one. So seeing Liam Lawson come in for his first race as a rookie, and also in FP1 on Friday, we saw Robert Schwartzman come in into Carlos Sainz's car as their third driver, because he has to do a session in each car over at some point in the season.
And why not do it now? And I'm going to take these off because I can't see anything. But these are great. Uh, if
I think
someone
they're
wins the
great. They're
competition
great.
that we do, then maybe you can get these sent over. Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. We were talking about rookies a lot in the last episode, and how new drivers they need time to bed in. They need experience because you can't just get into these cars. They're rocket ships. And there's a big difference between Formula Two and the jump to Formula One, even um, you know, yet alone Super League and things like that. I think Liam Lawson, on the whole, obviously, look, short notice. I think he did a good job. I mean, when you saw him passing Leclerc in the race, it was like,
Yeah.
well, I didn't think he'd be expecting to pass a Ferrari. Even though Leclerc did have some troubles, we'll come to in a minute. But no, I think he did really well, and what a great experience for Liam. We might be seeing more of him, hopefully.
Well, he knows at any point he could jump into one of those cars. That's his job as the third driver. But I heard him do an interview before the race, and he said, "My job is just to finish." He said, "I don't mind if I finish last. I just don't want to crash or anything like that." And wow, he finished 13th. So he has to be really proud of his day's work.
That's great. And the car came back in one piece, and so I'm sure the team are happy too. Daniel Ricciardo, on the other hand, yeah, he can't be happy because this was the big comeback, and now this is delayed. I mean, they're saying that he may be ready for Singapore. Singapore is a really intense race. I don't know about that. I mean, depends how it all goes. He could be out for the rest of the season. We don't know. Um, but it's you're so tight, and the pressure and the forces. I mean, he's got to be careful that he doesn't do any lasting damage. And he gets even more bad news. But we know about that, and we wish him well for his recovery. Um, yes, and I mean, look, qualifying as well. Mercedes, what happened to Mercedes this weekend?
Well, I think it's with these changeable conditions, it's you've got to be on the track at the right time. And in FP2, Hamilton set his fastest lap about 5 minutes from the end, and the track was constantly evolving, and he never got out to set a quicker lap, and therefore qualified 13th and was out. So timing is everything, and Formula One is so fast moving, all the time. I think that's what happened there, really.
Yeah, and Russell as well. I mean, at one point he was leading the race. And, on his radio, he says, well, I was projected for a podium. What happened? To
Yeah.
paraphrase. But, again, I think poor strategy. Just too many cars in front of them, it seemed, to kind of get ahead. They couldn't kind of jump the pack when it came to tyres. They should have had. They just didn't seem really on their game, I think. And maybe it's the post-holiday blues. I don't know.
So, the unpredictability of the weather meant some teams will win, some teams will lose. And I just think Mercedes were really unlucky with what they did, their strategy. But in the second half of the race, I actually thought they were starting to come alive. And the way Hamilton took Norris and was really pushing. And was it Norris and Russell who tapped it, which gave Russell the puncher? I've forgotten my words. The puncher at the end. I just thought Russell was unlucky, but then he should have never been that far back in the first place. He should have had a podium today, but they just lucked out.
McLaren did well. I mean, look, again, seeing the race and seeing the leaderboard, you're kind of used to it when there's normal pit stops. Someone's doing well, then they kind of jump back down 5-6 places or something, and then they kind of work their way back up. But the leaderboard was like this the whole time. Yeah. And, you're watching it, and if you'd looked away, you're like, oh, Zhao Guanyu, what's he doing up there? It's like anyone really was in contention to get a podium. And look what happened. We got Alonso is back on the podium. Aston Martin have made some upgrades over the break. So that car was flying. Stroll not so much, but Alonso did really well. And our favourite team that we were talking about last episode, who we completely forgot nearly to talk about, Alpine. I mean, a podium. Wow. I mean, how long is it since we've seen that?
Well, it's got to be a couple of years, hasn't it? Like Ocon did win Hungary 2 years ago. You were there, Joe. You were there. But I think
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, Alpine are in turmoil really with all the changes with the leadership team and the Ryan Reynolds buying in and Renault not wanting to put so much money in. I just think that they've got to regroup, get to the end of this season, and have a winter break where they really regroup and think things. But today has been a massive boost, and you heard Gasly as he came into as he came up to the where they parked up before the podium. He was absolutely buzzing, and that's great. That's what we want to see as F1 fans, is things that are different. For me, I expected Alonso to be on the podium today. I knew Aston Martin would do well on this track with their upgrades. And we all knew Max would win, but there was times where we thought, is he going to win? There was moments of jeopardy, and I loved that today. But talking about things going up and down, I just want to say one thing that I loved. Albon did not go onto wet tyres at all before the red flag. He stayed on his softs all through that wet, dropped right the way back down, and Piastri did as well, but then Piastri came in for wets. Albon kept going, and he went back up the leaderboard again and had a fantastic afternoon. Finished 8th in the end, but I think he just had a drop-off with faster cars coming past him towards, like Lewis and Norris at the end. But I thought he did a great race today, staying on those slicks.
Yeah, he can't help that. There are faster cars out there. We're talking about Williams here, which is traditionally down the bottom. But, I mean, yeah, 8th. Really incredible result. Sandwiched between the McLarens. I think really it's a great audition for him, because Williams I always find is a bit like Southampton FC. It's kind of like a feeder team for other teams. And I think he could go anywhere. Williams have a great affiliation with Mercedes. We talked about this last time. There's a Red Bull connection. I think Alex is going to stay in his seat certainly for the next couple of years and more years to come. Um, Yuki Tsunoda as well was up there at one point, but it just didn't have that pace to stay up there. Perhaps strategy wasn't up there. He finished the 16th in the end. Quite disappointing. Same as the Haas as well. Hulkenberg was right up there. I think he finished 12th and K-Mag 14th. So again, the opportunity that these lower table teams could have had. This was their chance to get up there and grab some points. Alex Albon made the most of that. Even you could say Carlos Sainz. I mean, he's a mid-level team, Ferrari, but a mixed day for Ferrari. Even though Sainz came fifth, Leclerc. I mean, again, disappointing doesn't really do it justice.
No, because he had his little clip at the early in the race where he had front wing damage, but then because of that he went across the grass, which caused floor damage. So with those two combined, it didn't matter. They changed the front nose cone, but the floor damage was enough to mean he was just running back in 15th, 16th. Everyone was passing him, and when we saw Liam Lawson pass him in the little stadium area before the last corner, I thought, wow, he's got some great footage to live off if he never gets to race again. But I think we're going to see him again, aren't we? And he unlapped himself as well at one point with Verstappen. So that was great to see. But, Tsunoda dropped off at the end.
But Ferrari,
yeah. Oh, mate, Ferrari, a mixed day, really, but just not good enough for a team like Ferrari.
No, go on. I was just saying, it's not good enough for a team like Ferrari, and Mercedes. I know that's not good enough for a team like Mercedes. Multiple world champions, constructor championships. Ferrari, who I think have won the most constructor championships back in history. Mm-hmm. When was the last time they won that? When was the last time they won a race? I mean, it's starting to become history itself.
It is.
And again, the Leclerc's troubles aren't going to be over soon. They need to really get quicker and get the strategy. I mean, just to go on, I remember in the pit, I can't remember if it was Leclerc or Sainz, sat in the pit waiting for the sign to go, and they had these digital, instead of the green red sign, which is kind of traditional and very quick, they've got a digital green and red. But I saw that it was red, to stop there. It went green, and then it went red. And I think maybe he thought, oh, it's still red. And then one of the engineers were like, no, go. Wow. So I think that may have been a problem as well that I spied. We'll have to check that out. Well, if you're watching this video, and please leave it in the comments if you saw that too.
Yeah, I didn't spot that, so well done, Joe. That's really good. I did spot that they didn't have tyres ready for one of their pit stops, which again is just disorganisation. With my friend Frank Vasseur, who's running the team now, normally when you come
Fred,
into a
his
team,
name's Fred.
Well, it's both. I think Fred's nickname. I think we should check that as well. We'll leave that in the comments as well. Yeah. So. He's gone to Ferrari from Alfa Romeo and hasn't brought anyone else with him. So he's obviously made that decision. Normally, any football manager would bring their team with them, wouldn't they, when they move to a new club? So I don't quite know what's going on there. But I think they just need to get to the end of the season, and if they finish in the top 5, well, they've got away with it. But Alpine today, great work. Aston Martin, good work on Alonso, but Stroll, he finished, what did he finish? 11th today. It's not good enough, mate. You've got to be doing better.
He's got to be doing better, and he needs to justify his seat because, look, it's been happening for a while, but there are a lot of questions about him justifying his seat for obvious reasons. He has come through the ranks, and driving. He's had moments of brilliance. And start of the season, he was up there with Alonso. These are new Ferrari. He kind of looked in a way, but again, it's kind of tailed off. I don't know whether that's a confidence thing. I don't know. Has he checked out? are we seeing the last season of Lance Stroll?
Do you know what? There's been rumours about him retiring. I said the other day, he's talking about turning a tennis pro. What are we doing here? Come on, mate. Just knuckle down, focus, and do a great job. Or get out and let's get someone like Liam Lawson into that car as quick as possible, because they need to be higher in the Constructors' Championship than they are. So, we're talking about him, and we're almost wasting our breath at the moment because we're putting more effort into this than he is, in my mind. Maybe I'm being unfair.
No, it's true, and I mean, when you've got people like Liam who are hungry and they come in and they want it, and you can see like they really want it, they really want to smash it, and look, there are things that are outside your control. Sometimes the strategy is a team decision. You can't really override that unless you're a Max or Lewis, perhaps. And I think, you need to have that hunger, and because also, your head is under the cosh. We talked about last week with performance. If you don't perform, that's it.
Yep.
Then you're not going to be hanging around for long. I think it also can, be the same about strategy because, I mean, look at Perez at the end of the race. I mean, that was a bit of a fast. What did you think about that? He was denied a second place, really, by poor strategy.
Well, it was poor strategy, and then, of course, denied third place as well, by getting his 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Come on, mate. We all know the speed, it's just not... Again, yes, it's quick. Everything happens so fast. But, I like to see Red Bull make a few mistakes. It's just that it always seems to be on Perez's side of the garage where these mistakes happen. You make your own luck as well, I believe. So he had a poor finish to the race today, having had a great start where he went onto the wets first, overtook everybody like they weren't there who were still on the slicks on lap 2. So a great start, looked brilliant. Solid second. Max did undertake him in the pit stops, which I don't think Perez was too happy about. But solid second place, and then it all went pear-shaped for him. And still finished fourth, but that is a bad result for Red Bull. They should be 1-2 easily in any condition.
Yeah, that's right. Mainly due to the invincibility of Max. I mean, we don't often talk about Max, but this guy, this is his time. This is unassailable. Yes, with this race, we saw the weather coming in. We saw lots of jumbling around on the leaderboard. This makes an exciting race. It could be anyone's at any moment. But Max still sailed through this. I mean, he was just composed. He did his thing. He didn't really care about anything. He didn't really get pent up or anything. He just did a blinding race. Obviously, it's his home race as well. There's a bit of added pressure there. But this guy, he's a Terminator. He's a machine. He just knows that's what he needs to do. And he just absolutely flies. And no one is getting near him. I can't remember the biggest gap. Maybe 9-10 seconds he was ahead. I remember seeing that. But, it was just comfortable. Another win. And this is now, I think, tied for the most consecutive wins. So if he wins the next race, then he'll be... that's the one for the record books for Max.
That's right. Vettel had 9 race wins in a season back in the early 2010s. And Max has matched that today with 9 as well. So you're absolutely right. Next week at Monza, which is a really, really fast circuit, we could see that. But then sometimes Monza throws up some special races as well. Having Gasly having won there in what was Toro Rosso at the time. Having Ricciardo winning there in a McLaren 2 years ago. It's exciting. But I'm now going to say, isn't the weather better than a safety car? We normally wish for safety cars.
I hope it absolutely... Wow. No, we do. I think it's going to absolutely chuck it down. That's my hope. I haven't checked the weather yet. We'll do that on our next episode in the preview to Monza. But look, all eyes are going to be on Ferrari. It's essentially that is their home race.
Yes, it is.
So Is that going to buoy them? Is that going to inject some life? I don't know. I don't know if it matters because really they've got to get heads down, and Leclerc can't have any more mistakes. He needs to be up the front. He needs to show what he can do. Because you, there's only so much you can blame on the strategy. What about the drivers too? I think Leclerc came off as well. 1 or 2 points in this race. It's all, I don't know. It's very easy for us to sit here and do that, and we've worked in the paddock. We've been there. We've seen these guys jumping in and out of these cars, and they are fighter pilots. So when we're talking about like he's good and he's disappointing, we're talking about tiny, tiny margins and very, very real precision driving is what they're doing, and beyond mere mortals, beyond what most people have experienced in a normal car. However, it does need to be better because there's so much pressure from all sides. So Monza, I think, is going to be. It could be a make or break for Ferrari, and but can anyone beat Max? This is the big question. Monza's going to suit Max. I think he loves it. He's just going to go in. He's going to slay it. I don't know if anyone else is going to come close. What do you think?
I think you're absolutely right, mate. Max is just in a league of his own. The car is built around him. If they didn't build the car around him, he'd go somewhere else, but he doesn't need to. Perez should be matching him in second place, but I think the McLaren looked good this weekend. The Aston Martin is looking back to where it was at in Monaco, finishing in second. It's the unpredictability of the weather and safety cars. Just mean that it brings the pack closer together again. Alonso, there was a couple of times in those first 2 laps after the red flag, we're like, ooh, do you know what? He's only got to throw it in there and anything can happen. So I think it'll be Lando or Fernando who will do it, and I do think they'll do it before the end of the season. We've just got to keep our fingers crossed. And keep our fingers crossed for Ricciardo as well, because I want to see him back in Singapore.
Yes, I know. Unfortunately, he's not able to cross his fingers on one hand at the moment, but we'll do it for you, Daniel. And also, we feel sorry for the clubbers down on the beach at Zandvoort because I guess they didn't really get to go to their beach clubs because of the weather. But one interesting thing I saw is that they asked the Dutchies to travel there by bicycle. Um, because of the traffic restraints, the things that we talked about. And so apparently there's about 300,000 bicycles all stacked up at the front of the track. So, looking forward to Monza. It was a great race. What a great race to come back after the break. Quite a few surprises there. It was action all the way, even with the red flag and having to wait a while. It was... it was such great anticipation to see the restart, but not too eventful, that restart, would you say?
No, I think everybody was just a case of just get to the end and stay where you are. This race had everything, is what it had. Red flags, safety cars, rain, sunshine, 20 degrees, completely dry track as well, different strategies, different tyres. It had everything. For me, it was the best race of the season. The only thing is, Max won it. And he just proves time and time again, we are watching history in the making.
We are indeed. And we're going to watch plenty more. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon as well for more from Racehouse. We are now on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Amazon Music, and of course YouTube and Google Podcasts as well if you're on Android. So make sure to check us out and share, tell your friends about Racehouse. If you want to make some comments, please send them in as well. You can comment on our YouTube channel, Racehouse Podcast, at Racehouse Podcast. Put your comments in there, put your questions for myself and Darren, and we'll try and answer some of those in the next coming episodes. But for now, it's bye from me, Joe Lee.
And it's bye from me, Darren Reeves.